Hey, welcome back. It's Nolan Mathias from Mortgage 360 and some really interesting news this week of the RBC Spring Housing Poll. 36% of people under the age of 40 who don't already own a home have completely given up on home ownership. That's right, they don't see themselves ever buying a home in the future. And in today's video, I'm going to discuss the numbers. I'm going to maybe give you a little bit of positive information and a little bit of positive encouragement with respect to home ownership down the road. And for those of you who are in the process of purchasing a home or being a first-time home buyer, I've got a tool at the end of this video that I am going to offer you in order to help you in that process. But before we get into it, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. And don't forget about our race to 10,000 subscribers. We are just 800 subscribers away from hitting that 10,000 mark, and one of you, if you are subscribed, is going to win your monthly rent or mortgage payment for a month just for subscribing to this channel. So go ahead, click that subscribe button. It's free, it's easy, and it's definitely worth it. And in the next 10 to 15 days, we are 100% giving away somebody's rent or mortgage payment. The definitive guide on how to manage your credit, product, penalty, price in that order. It's never been more important to get your mortgage right. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's discuss the RBC Spring Housing Poll. This is a poll that RBC puts together with Ipsos. They survey 2,000 Canadians. In this case, all of them are employed. And they basically ask for their feelings with respect to the housing market and purchasing a home, either in the near future or down the road. And the headline is really interesting. I'll jump right into it because the headline is this: Are Canadians dreaming of owning a home? And the answer is it's complicated. And then the highlights here are that 36% of non-homeowners under 40 have given up entirely on the dream of owning a home. 62% of Canadians who don't own a home think that most people will be priced out of the housing market in the next decade. And 60% of Canadians likely to buy in the next 2 years are saving at least $789 a month on average. Now, I'm going to address the second point first. 62% of Canadians, sorry, I said non-homeowners, but it's actually 62% of Canadians say most likely people will be priced out of the housing market in the next decade. I want to go ahead and I just want to put this fear to rest. Something will happen with respect to the ratio of property values to income. Either property values are going to come back down to income, or income levels will increase to the point where housing prices seem less expensive. But that has to happen. And the reason why it has to happen is because if your incomes don't afford your housing, they can't go up in value and they have to come back down. So relatively speaking, one of two things will happen. We're either going to see housing prices chill out and basically stay flat until incomes catch up to them, or we're going to see them come down, or I guess the third thing that could potentially happen is we're going to see incomes come up pretty significantly to catch up to housing. So for those people who think that, people are going to be priced out of the housing market in the next decade, I'm here to tell you right now, out of the gate, that is probably not something that we have to worry about, and that eventually things will get a little bit less crazy. Now, with respect to 36% of non-homeowners under 40 giving up on that dream of owning a house, this is quite sad. This is something that, I think you need to really, really, really believe that home ownership is something that you need to do in order to build wealth. And Warren Buffett said it best: the best investment a person can make is a single family home. And there's a reason for that. It is the single biggest opportunity for a person to basically build wealth out of all the options available to them. And the reason why is quite simply because it's a matter of leverage and it's a matter of building equity. And if you are thinking that you won't be able to purchase a home, my guess is it's likely a down payment issue, not necessarily an income issue. And maybe it's a down payment issue with respect to purchasing the size of house that you want, and so on and so forth. And the data a little bit later on will support that. But my key message here is, there is a way, there is a how, there will be the ability for people under 40 to purchase homes in the future. And you just need to have a plan and a strategy going forward. Now, I want to dive into the data here. And the data to me is really interesting. There's some things we really need to pay attention to here. One, first and foremost, I'm going to start with, they have lumped BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, Manitoba together. This is, in my opinion, a big mistake because obviously the people in BC have a very different view on real estate right now than the people in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, right? Because in BC and Vancouver, housing prices are over $1.1 million. In Alberta, they're $485,000. So people are going to have a drastically different view on whether they're priced out of the market based on whether they're in Alberta or Saskatchewan. So what I would have liked to have seen is I would have liked to have seen them break out BC, leave Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba together, but I would have liked to have seen them break out BC because obviously that market is substantially different than what the Alberta, Saskatchewan market is. Now, if you take a look here, non-homeowners under 40, I've given up on the dream of home ownership. What you can see according to this is that 41% of people in Western Canada have given up on that dream. I think BC is skewing that number significantly higher. Ontario, 39% of people have given up on the dream of home ownership, so a little bit less. And then if you go to Quebec, you see 27% have given up on that dream of home ownership. And I think more than anything, this is a down payment issue, not an income issue. I think that the incomes in each individual province pretty much account for the purchase prices. Average household income, I think, probably still buys a fairly reasonable property in most provinces. And why I say that income isn't necessarily the bigger issue is because when you go down and you take a look at likely to buy a home in the next 2 years, on average, how much money do you put aside every month to save for a new home purchase? What you can see is in that $1 million Ontario market, people are putting away $1,000 a month. Now, compared to Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC, they're only putting $500 away. So what that tells me is that the incomes in Ontario support the higher values, primarily because people in Ontario seem to have much more money available to put away for down payment on a monthly basis. Now, you can go through and you can take a look at a whole bunch of these numbers, but when you look at this number here, which is how likely are you to purchase a home or another home in the next 2 years, what you see is that almost a third of Canadians, even though a third of Canadians have given up on the idea of home ownership, a third of Canadians are still planning on purchasing in the next 2 years, and 41% of those are looking at doing it sooner because of low interest rates, which, by the way, when you think about home ownership and you think about prices, if for every 1% more you pay an interest rate, you're basically adding 10% to the cost of the mortgage. And if you're adding 10% to the cost of the mortgage, you're basically adding 10% to the cost of the house. So if you're waiting for home prices to come down, but interest rates start to go up, you could very well be putting yourself in a situation where you're paying the same or more because you waited for the housing market to crash. And then as a result, how interest rates went up and you ended up paying virtually the same amount, and it just took you 2 or 3 years longer to end up paying off the house down the road anyways. So, I think this is really interesting data. I think this is a really interesting poll. It makes me sad that a third of people are giving up the dream of home ownership. I would like to see what the numbers looked like previously. I may go back and do some research to see if I can find previous numbers. But, a third of Canadians under 40 who don't own a home giving up on home ownership, I think, is a tragedy. And I certainly hope that those people will reconsider it, because at some point it's going to become your biggest avenue to building wealth and basically getting yourself to a point where you have a property that's paid off and then the ability down the road to someday retire because you aren't having to pay rent to a landlord and so on and so forth. Now, for those people who are thinking about getting into the market, who are purchasing, I put something together for you guys. It is a 4-week coaching program. You get direct access to me, and it is the inaugural 4-week first-time homebuyer boot camp. What we are doing is we're trying to create a resource where all the best information on the internet is combined and consolidated into one place. We're going to talk about how to choose a realtor. We're going to talk about mortgage financing 101, saving for a down payment, how to write a purchase contract, basically arm people with all the information they need to make their first-time home buyer purchase in a way that basically doesn't cost them a significant amount of money or a significant cost because of mistakes and not doing it right. So we put that together into a 4-week course. It will never be priced as low as it is right now. For those of you who are watching, you get a deal and you get the chance to be in that first course where we're going to basically build a course around your needs and your desires and the information that you want to find out. It's going to start in the next week or two, And spaces are going to be limited because obviously this is the first time around doing it. We want to make sure that we get everybody as much information as possible and enough valid information as possible. So what I've done is I've put in a link in the description below. The course is absolutely discounted. It will never be this low priced again. There are a limited number of spots. So when it's full, it's full. And I won't be opening it back up for at least 4 weeks until the first boot camp is complete. So if you want to sign up for that, go ahead. Link is in the description below. And if you found this video useful, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. And don't forget about our race to 10,000 subscribers. Somebody in the next, at 2 weeks at most, is going to win their monthly rent or mortgage payment for a month. Don't let it not be you because you didn't click that subscribe button.